I'm here today via the miracle of modern technology to interview Judy Carman, who's the author of this book, Homo Ahimsa. I guess the first question is, why did you write this book?
Okay, thanks, Keith, and it's really good to be here. I really appreciate you inviting me on. The book, Homo Ahimsa, Who We Really Are and How We're Going to Save the World, is my new book. I introduced the idea of Homo Ahimsa in my book, Peace to All Beings, quite a while ago. But my idea there at the time was Ahimsa in Sanskrit means non-harm, literally. And a more broad definition is nonviolence and loving kindness. We haven't really acted wisely on this planet. We've done a tremendous amount of damage. And so I thought to myself, why don't we think of ourselves as who we really are deep inside our hearts? People who don't want to harm, who don't want to do harm, who don't want to kill, don't want to cause damage, but we're just kind of confused about how to keep from doing that. We're driving cars and bugs are landing on our windshields and dying. There's so many things we do like that. There's also the huge thing that many people do, which is contributing to animal agriculture and eating animals and their dairy products and eggs, which causes tremendous environmental harm and tremendous suffering to animals.
Okay, let me read from your book here. This is on page 55. As the late peace and justice activist Father Daniel Berrigan stated, it is very rare to sustain a movement in recognizable form without a spiritual base. I'm wondering if you could comment on that. So the vegan movement, does that have a spiritual basis, or is veganism the spiritual basis, or what exactly do you mean here by spiritual basis?
Well, that's such an interesting question, because so many vegans tend to almost recoil at the idea of religion, in a large part because of the fact that most religions do just not pay attention to animals. They may sponsor rodeos and group hunting things and even killing contests. But what I think Father Berrigan he's referring back to so many other activist movements. The civil rights movement, for example, was very spiritually based, and the peace movement certainly has been. I mean, he was one of the major peace activists, and he's a Catholic priest. And but veganism has been different along those lines. So what I'm saying is, well, number one, we have to reach those places of worship and those spiritual leaders. We can't ignore them. We need their help to bring this world into alignment with all their values, which is basically the golden rule. Every religion that I know of is based on the golden rule. So that's one aspect of it, is that we can't ignore the places of worship and the spiritual leaders. We've got to reach out to them. We need their help. Another aspect of it that I point out in the book is that veganism really is a spiritual practice. It is coming from our hearts. When you become vegan, you take an ethical stance against violence and against harming animals. And why would you do that when people are going to argue with you and they're going to tease you and say, here, have this hamburger, or you're hurting my feelings if you don't eat this meat or whatever? why would you do that if it wasn't a spiritual calling in your heart that says, no matter what, I don't care what anybody says, I know it's right to love animals and to care for them and to live as partners with them and not harm them. I know that's right. And so I believe that that is coming from our souls, from our spirits, and it is a spiritual calling.
What would your response be to people that were offended by comparing animals to humans and saying, well, I get that about humans, but why do we have to deal with these animals? Why do we have to be nice to them?
That's a perfect question, because there are a lot of people who don't particularly care about animals, but the key here is that we can't have kindness to people and nonviolence to people unless we also have it to animals. And I know Will Tuttle talks a lot about it in his World Peace Diet book, about how what we're doing to animals is coming back on us. So we're raping cows so that they can have a baby every year. We're taking their babies away from them, taking their milk. And so why are we surprised that women are being subjugated and looked upon as objects and sex trafficked and enslaved in many places? I guess the key is the mindset of domination applies to all people and all animals. As long as you have that mindset and you don't clear out those those beliefs that you've been programmed with, that we're the center of the universe and that we have the right to take away all other rights from all other beings, then we cannot have a world of peace. As long as we're enslaving billions and billions of animals and catching trillions of fishes out of the ocean, how can we expect to have peace, a lack of war, I should say, because we're committing war and genocide against these animals on a nonstop basis, and we have been for the last 10,000 years.
So you say that higher consciousness is rising. I'm wondering, I look around, if I look on Facebook or something like that, no, I'm not sure I see that higher consciousness right off the bat. What and like meat consumption has quadrupled in the last 60 years or so. So what evidence? And now we're talking about a vegan world by 2026. What evidence do you see that this is happening?
Boy, that is a challenging question, because what you're saying is absolutely right. And that is why I wrote the book, really, because if you look at all that, it's really scary. What I'm going by is that there are a lot of people and a lot of spiritual teachers who are out there teaching how to rise above our very self-centered attitudes.
So who are some of these spiritual teachers or teachings?
Well, Thich Nhat Hanh is one of the major ones. He has written many books, and anyone who's listening in, if you haven't read any of his books, you must. They're so important. He himself is vegan. And of course, Gandhi, we have him as a great teacher. His teachings are still going on. And then there's Suma Ching Hai, who has millions of vegan followers and is a great teacher in her own right. There's more people learning yoga, which is also based on Ahimsa. It's one of the first steps of yoga is Ahimsa. Not all yoga practitioners are vegan, but they do they ascribe to Ahimsa, and so they're learning. And many in the past that we can call on or read their works. Peace Pilgrim was another one who walked thousands and thousands of miles. Paramahansa Yogananda taught that this world would be vegetarian by 2050. And so we're trying to move that up a little bit and make it vegan.
So why, if our movement needs a spiritual basis, then why is it that spiritual movements, that even movements that embrace vegetarianism or veganism, why do they fail? I'm thinking of like Unity, for example, which, like the Fillmores, had vegetarianism or veganism as part of their principles, and then it dropped out for some reason.
Yeah, they sure did. They even had one of the statements of faith, I think they called them, was that we all had to, they didn't use the word vegan. It hadn't been invented yet. But that we all had to do no harm to animals. And that's basically the same thing. And they had the true teaching in their hearts. But then when they passed away, that edict was actually removed from their statements of faith. It was literally removed. And the people who took over Unity did not want to have that in there, and they started serving meat in their, not the vegetarian restaurant downtown, but at Unity Village. However, we have a great teacher named Reverend Carol Saunders, who is a Unity minister, and she is really stirring the pot over there. And she's gotten a couple of articles in, she's given some speeches about veganism. And we're actually planning a conference at Unity Village in October when we will hopefully have many Unity ministers and lots of other people too, activists and other spiritual teachers from other religions coming to learn about veganism. And it's going to be at Unity Village. And so we're hoping we can reinstate that statement of faith, which was so pure and true.
So your book has certainly raised a lot of questions. And if people are interested, where can they find you, or where can they find your book?
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, it's my website is peacetoallbeings.com. And that's named after my other book, Peace to All Beings. And on that website, there's a contact me button. You can just contact me that way, and I can sell you a book and send you a signed copy, or you can get it on Amazon. It's available there too. So that's how you get it. And yeah, I wanted to mention the Interfaith Vegan Coalition because some people might be interested in that. You can just Google Interfaith Vegan Coalition and it'll pop up. And there's a lot of interesting stuff on there. And I'm the co-founder of that. And there's lots of tools on there for people who want to reach out to their places of worship and introduce vegan values to their place of worship and show them how vegan Ahimsa values are aligned with their places of worship's highest values. So there's some good stuff there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Judy, and I'm glad you could take time to talk with us.
Well, thanks,
today.
Keith. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.